The cafeteria was loud with clattering trays and tired footsteps when a thin, weather-worn woman paused beside a small table where a single father sat counting coins beside a plastic cup of soup, and in that fragile moment of hunger and hesitation, two lives quietly collided in a way neither of them could have imagined. The man's shoulders were bent not from age but from responsibility, his eyes scanning the room the way soldiers scan uncertain ground, and the woman's hands trembled as if the weight of the world had settled into her palms. Something about the way she stood there, carrying more than just an empty plate, would soon peel back truths buried under years of survival and silence. Before the story unfolds any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that happen between strangers, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel name. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. The single dad had learned to live in margins. Margins of time between two jobs, margins of sleep between night shifts and early mornings, margins of money that barely held together rent, school lunches, and the bus pass that carried his son across the city each day. He was not poor in love, but love alone could not pay for winter coats or replace the shoes his son had outgrown for the third time in a year. The cafeteria had become a refuge because it was warm, predictable, and offered meals that cost less than cooking at home. He chose the same corner table every evening, not because it was comfortable, but because it allowed him to watch the door, to feel in control of something when everything else felt uncertain. The woman who approached that evening carried poverty differently. Hers was etched into her skin like a long drought, visible in the way she conserved energy, in the careful way she breathed as if each breath needed permission. Her clothes were clean but exhausted, washed too many times with hope instead of detergent. She had the posture of someone who once stood tall but had learned to fold herself smaller to survive. When she asked to share the table, it was not just about space, it was about permission to exist for a few minutes without being invisible. The man nodded, not out of charity but because he understood what it meant to need without wanting to ask. As she sat, he noticed how her eyes lingered on the soup cup, not with envy, but with memory. He had seen that look before in the mirror, the look of calculating hunger against dignity. The room continued around them, laughter bursting from other tables, the television humming with news that never seemed to change, yet a fragile bubble formed around that small table where two strangers shared silence thicker than words. The challenge for the single dad was not simply financial. It was the quiet erosion of self-worth that comes from constant compromise. He had once dreamed of building things with his hands, of a future where his son would never have to count coins before dinner. Life, however, had rerouted him through layoffs, medical bills, and the slow realization that resilience did not always come with rewards. Each day was a test of endurance, and each night he wondered how long he could keep standing without breaking. As they ate in silence, he noticed the woman's hands more closely. They were rough in places and delicate in others, marked by scars that suggested work requiring precision and patience. This contradiction unsettled him. People often assumed poverty looked one way, but her hands told a more complicated story. When she finished her meal, she folded her napkin carefully, a habit that spoke of another life, another time. Something inside him shifted, a small curiosity pushing against the walls he had built to protect himself from disappointment. Days passed, and the woman returned. She always chose the same time, the same quiet corner, always asking to share the table, always leaving with that same careful grace. The cafeteria staff barely noticed her, but the single dad did. He noticed how she read discarded newspapers as if they were textbooks, how she listened to conversations around her not to intrude but to remember how people talked when they felt safe. Slowly, the presence of another human being at his table softened the edges of his isolation. The turning point came on a night when the man arrived late, his son asleep on a neighbor's couch because the babysitter had quit without notice. Exhaustion pressed down on him like a physical weight. As he sat, the woman joined him again, and this time he noticed a folded envelope slipping from her bag. It landed at his feet, unnoticed by her. He picked it up to return it, expecting nothing more than a bill or a letter of rejection, but what he saw made his breath catch. Inside were documents, yellowed but carefully preserved, bearing a name he recognized instantly. It was the name of the company where he once worked, the company that had collapsed years ago under scandal and mismanagement. The papers were blueprints, patents, and legal filings, evidence of an innovation that had been buried to protect powerful interests. The woman noticed his stillness and gently took the envelope back, her eyes meeting his with a mixture of fear and resignation. She did not explain, but she did not need to. The truth was written in the care she took with those papers, in the way she carried them as if they were the last proof that her life had meaning beyond survival. Over the next weeks, without formal conversations or dramatic confessions, fragments of her story emerged through small details. She had once been an engineer, a brilliant one, whose work had been taken, silenced, and erased when she refused to sell it cheaply. Legal battles drained her savings, illness drained her strength, and when the world moved on, she was left behind with nothing but the evidence of what she had created. Pride kept her from asking for help. Hunger taught her how to wait. For the single dad, the discovery ignited a conflict. He was struggling to keep his own life afloat, yet here was a chance to help someone reclaim theirs. Fear whispered that involvement would only bring more trouble, that hope was a luxury he could not afford. But something stronger spoke too, something rooted in the example he wanted to set for his son. He remembered teaching the boy that doing the right thing mattered even when it was hard, even when no one was watching. He began researching quietly at night, using borrowed internet and public libraries. He cross-referenced names, traced corporate histories, and confirmed what the papers suggested. The woman's innovation was real, valuable, and wrongfully suppressed. It was the kind of discovery that could change lives, but only if someone was willing to stand up and push back against a system designed to keep people like her invisible. The struggle intensified as he weighed risks against responsibilities. He faced threats of eviction, mounting bills, and the constant anxiety of a parent trying to shield a child from adult fears. Helping her meant investing time and energy he barely had. Yet every night he returned to that cafeteria table, and every night the woman was there, carrying her past and her dignity with equal care. Their silent partnership became a source of strength, a reminder that survival did not have to be solitary. Change did not arrive all at once. It crept in through small victories. A journalist returned his email. A legal aid clinic agreed to review the documents. A former colleague confirmed the theft. Each step forward felt fragile, as if it could collapse under the weight of disbelief. But persistence, like kindness, has a way of multiplying when shared. The day the story broke, the cafeteria was quieter than usual. The television flashed headlines about corporate accountability and forgotten innovators. The woman sat straighter that day, not because her life had suddenly become easy, but because truth had finally surfaced. The single dad watched from across the table, feeling a mix of relief and awe. He had not saved her. He had simply refused to look away. As the months passed, restitution followed. Not riches, not instant happiness, but recognition, security, and the chance to rebuild. The woman moved into a small apartment. The man found steadier work through connections formed during the investigation. His son learned, not from lectures but from lived experience, that courage often looks like quiet persistence and shared tables. Just before the ending, we invite you to comment below and share what this story made you feel or what kindness between strangers means to you. Near the end of this journey, if this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that even in the hardest seasons a simple act can change everything, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to channel name. Your engagement keeps these stories alive. In the end, the unbelievable discovery was not just the woman's hidden past or the stolen innovation. It was the realization that two people, both struggling to survive, could become the turning point in each other's lives simply by choosing to share a table, a moment, and the belief that dignity is worth defending.